4 copies of Boros Reckoner, topping off his card with 2 Thundermaw, Hellkites, Brimstone Volley, Searing Sphere, and Pillar of Flame. But nothing on turn 1 here.
And no Loyal Legionist, no Stromkirk Noble. Probably has a 2-drop, maybe a little bit of Assail it. As you do see Cliff here with a Stomping Ground, a Force, and a Farseek. So gonna get the mana on 9.
And this is a really rough spot to be with if you're mono red on the draw, nothing on turn 1, opponent Farseeking, because the 4s and 5s that the Palo deck generates, the Huntmaster Fells and Thragtusks of the Worlds are really hard to beat when you just don't have any early aggression, when you don't have any board.
Yeah, those are the tough cards to beat, especially with no Skullcracks in Anthony's main deck. All of his Skullcracks are in his sideboard. He has those Brimstone Volleys, those Searing Spears, and his Pillar Frame main deck. He doesn't even have a good way to trump a Thragtusk right now. It's just going to be, maximum value. We are going to see an Assail get things underway here, so Cliff is going to go down to 18.
So we'll see if Cliff has something along the lines of the Huntmaster of the Fells here, in which he just drew.
Sulfur Falls, coming to play on tap because of Stomping Ground, and there's your Huntmaster of the Fells. And 2 triggers are going to go on. Cliff's going to move back up to 20, going to get a Wolf token, and this is where things get a little bit tough for the red deck, especially as you said, with no 1-drop to start the show.
Yeah, I mean, Anthony, fortunately, because of Assail having first strike, really, all Anthony has to have here is a Pillar to keep attacking, but it's not just about this Huntmaster, it's about the subsequent turns and the extra threats that Cliff's going to be generating. So there's a Pillar.
Huntmaster goes bye-bye. You see a lot of lands there. You see a Lightning Mauler, you see 3 mountains, you see another Pillar of Flame in his hand, so really, really hoping to dodge the Thragtusk.
Yeah.
Super important. As you do see Assail come across again. Going to bring Cliff back down to 18.
Just passes, not willing to commit that Lightning Mauler.
Interesting, makes you wonder if Anthony maybe knows what he's playing against here. Just because, he can play the Lightning Mauler there. No Soulbound necessary because Assail already has haste, can line himself up for another threat to get haste. But again, when you're playing against a deck with 4 Izzet Staticasters, Lightning Mauler, just playing it, getting no value from it's pretty dangerous.
Best to be conservative.
And if the jig wasn't up before, it certainly is now.
Yeah. As you see, Nightshade Peddler. And then Deathrite Shaman.
And the Wolf token's going to come across, and as you can see in Cliff's hand, he actually does have a copy of Izzet Staticaster in his hand to go along with a Thragtusk and Olivia Voldaren, so rocking a hard place here for Anthony.
A little tight on mana, and if Cliff never gets to 5 mana, or he can keep Olivia, if Anthony can keep Olivia off the table and have a Thundermaw, Hellkite's got a shot, but we're in dangerous territory now.
And you're going to see Pillar of Flame take out the Deathrite Shaman. And you're going to see a Lightning Mauler here. And Soulbound. So it's going to get haste. So you got a 2-1 and 2-2 coming across. But now is the opportunity where Cliff can really start to mop some things up here. Because while he doesn't have his 5th land right now, he doesn't have enough mana to really make Olivia Voldaren a huge threat, he does have the Izzet Staticaster.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the bigger issue here. And the draw step there is a Dragon Skull Summon, which is going to come to fan tab. So he can do just about anything that he wants to right now.
I'd probably lead with the Staticaster here because Thragtusk's value is pretty flat. It'll be good at some point in the game, but your Staticaster, you have a pretty small window to make that thing good.
Yeah.
Also, if Anthony is just out of removal spells, which is realistic because the red deck isn't that homogenous with burn, he might just get locked. Although I probably would have just fired it off right away.
You see Anthony hits drawn another land for the turn, so he is flooding out pretty badly here. Cliff does just play the Dragon Skull Summon and passes the turn back. And you're going to see these guys come across here, and Cliff is going to say, "Just one moment, kind sir. I have something that I want to do, and it is Izzet Staticaster." This combination of cards is something that Brad Nelson actually ended up taking to the top 4 of Grand Prix Atlantic City. Joe Lissette winning SCG Open Series in San Diego. Basically backed off this combination of cards.
Yeah, it is a nightmare on creature decks. Not necessarily mono red traditionally, but more of the Naya green white human style decks. But the red decks of this format do not have as many burn spells as we associate with Legacy Burn or even previous iterations of mono red burn in standard formats. It's 8 to 10, 12 removal spells roughly, and when you're presenting other threats like Arbor Elf and Huntmaster of the Fells and Deathrite Shaman that require answers, it's actually not hard to get this set up.
Yeah. And when you have cards in your deck like Tracker's Instincts and Damirade, you know, basically ways to facilitate finding this combination of cards. Again, as you said, it's not very difficult to set up, and if you know, the decks don't really have a ton of ways to go about breaking it up.
No.
You know, nothing that's terribly efficient, as you are going to see. Nightshade Peddler and Thragtusk come across in the red zone here. Cliff at a comfortable life total. Anthony flooding out. I think Anthony's going to come to the same conclusion that we already have, which is just too difficult of a situation to get out of. Searing Spear takes care of that. The Nightshade Peddler, but again, that's not really the biggest problem here on the table.
Yeah. And we still have Olivia Voldaren left over.
There you see Watery Grave going to play untapped here. Cliff going to go down to 17. I think we're going to see that aforementioned card. And there it is. Olivia Voldaren's going to join play with enough mana to be able to trigger the ability. Anthony draws a card, another land. He's going to play another one of those mountains in his hand. And he is just going to pass the turn back, it looks like. You see Olivia Voldaren shoot the Izzet Staticaster, grow a little bit.
Untaps, and this is all but a formality.
Are you saying it's over? Are you saying this particular game is over, Patrick?
This one's looking pretty bad. You're in would lose even if you had if Bonfire was on top, even if Bonfire was in your deck, which it is not.
That makes things a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, the
that
pretty
might
safe
make things a little bit more difficult.
The pretty
then.
safe point of no return. It looks like we're getting up to lethal here by just shooting down our Staticaster. That'll get Olivia up to 7 power. With Thragtusk, it's 12. And then gets Anthony for Xaxes.
Olivia's a real meanie.
I mean, that wasn't its most impressive.
Shoot down your own friends to get bigger.
So, to the boards. What do you like from the Peddler deck here?
From the old pedal to the metal deck, huh? Let's see. Taking a look here, you know, he does have 3 copies of Devour Flesh, which is the new Diabolic Edict type effect. 2 copies of Abrupt Decay I like, 3 copies of Museum Mortars I kind of like. There's a copy of Garrett Primal Hunter, which I don't love, 2 copies of Negate. You know, the goal here for Cliff, as he is up a game here, is to just make sure, you know, that, you know, he just doesn't die. He's not overwhelmed by anything, and that's what Abrupt Decay and Museum Mortars accomplishes. You know, keep that Stromkirk Noble in check, keep the Ash Elves of the world in check. You know, the longer the game goes, the more likely he's going to be able to assemble his combo of Nightshade Peddler and Izzet Staticaster and be able to clean the game up that way.
Yeah.
So just have these spot removal spells. You know, you can board out maybe a card like Deathrite Shaman's not great here. Tracker's Instincts is, you know, it's fine or whatever. Maybe Olivia's a little bit too slow. There's some things you can move out for these spot removal spells.
Yeah. On the other side, he has Anthony has 2 copies of Zealous Conscripts, which I like here. He has 1 Cavernous Souls in his sideboard. I assume that's for matchups where he wants some of his more expensive cards like Museum Mortars and Blasphemous Axe, so he just has extra mana. 4 copies of Skullcrack, which, you know, this is the problem is, you know, usually Skullcrack is good against decks where your pillars are bad. Like blue-white Flash or blue-white red or just control decks in general. Your pillars are actually good here because of Deathrite Shaman and Hummaster of the Fells and Arbor Elf. You know, Peddler, there's a bunch of pillar targets. So I'm not really sure how you make room for a bunch of Skullcracks, assuming that you still want to keep in all your removal, which I believe that he does here. But I do like the 2 Zealous Conscripts for sure. I think Museum Mortars is a little too... I don't think he can take the control route in this matchup to quite that extent.
I don't think he can either.
He can't, you know, compromise his curve and his threat density that much. So I think the 2 Zealous Conscripts are certainly coming in, and then it's just an issue of whether or not he wants Skullcrack. And like I said, you know, it's good against Thragtusk, and Thragtusk is in the opposing deck, and it's okay against Huntmaster, and Huntmaster is in the opposing deck. But it's not quite that simple, just because he needs to keep all of his removal, and he can't cut that many creatures.
Yeah.
So I suspect he'll bring him in, but it's not as clear-cut as opponent has life gain, therefore Skullcrack is good.
Yeah.
Because normally you would want to be subbing out pillars.
If you're Anthony here, it's super important for him to get off to a fast start this game. I think that you know, the last game was worst case scenario. You know, Cliff was on the play, Cliff Farseek's on turn 2, Anthony's on the draw, has no 1-drop, and it's just playing an Ash Cell, and you know he's already just too far behind.
Yeah, and I'm pretty surprised by the absence of Rakdos Cackler as in this sort of deck. It seems like most of your best draws involve that or Stormkirk Noble.
Yeah, you know, there can be arguments made for Legion Loyalists, but I think that, you know, as boring and vanilla as Rakdos Cackler is, just having a 2-power creature on turn 1 is what this deck needs to do.
Yeah.
You know, Legion Loyalist having its effect with Battalion is nice and all those things, but I think
it'll have its moments. It'll definitely have its moments, but I would rather have something that's, you know, an 8 out of 10 all the time versus something that's a 10 out of 10 20% of the time and then a 4 out of 10 80% of the time, you know. And I feel like that's the kind of split.
No, I gotta agree with you on that one. So again, it's super important just for Anthony. You know, a 1-drop is going to be pretty crucial here. You know, or just starting on turn 2 with an Ash Salt, and just he's got to get the clock going right away and put Cliff underneath some pressure. You know, I think Boros Reckoner also going to be a pretty big and important draw for him.
Yeah.
Attention Magic players, if you signed up for standard winner box number 1.
If you're taking a look at his opener here, Cliff is happy. You see him shaking his head approvingly. And we're underway. Turn 1. All right.
There he is.
So there's your Legion Loyalist.
A new Raging Goblin slash clunky anti-Lingering Souls card from the new set.
Something I never thought I'd say, a Raging Goblin variant.
Yeah.
Is what the Legion Loyalist is, as you guys do see it on the screen. A lot of text for a 1/1 haster for one.
Yeah.
But we do see Cliff has a Arbor Elf, and is he willing to trade here? He's not, unsurprisingly.
Yeah.
Anthony's going to follow it up with a Stormkirk Noble. He's just going to pass the turn back. So he's off to a better start this game.
Yeah. Although, Nightshade Peddler, in a subtle way, this is also just super bad for Anthony because Cliff has the option of just blocking and trading and getting to 3 and 4 mana. And
And it just makes you wonder what this game would be like if it was a Rakdos Cackler instead of a Legion Loyalist.
Well, right now it would be the same amount of damage.
That's true.
Both have dealt 2. The question now is, what's that Legionist worth against what the Cackler would be going forward?
Yep.
If you'd like to sign up, come see me over at the...
You see Mizian Mortars here in Anthony's hand. I think you have to Mortars the Arbor Elf here.
Oh yeah.
Keep him off of mana, get that strong
4 mana is such an important flashpoint for this deck.
And he opts to kill the Peddler, and Cliff's not going to block here. But yeah, as you said, 4 mana is the flashpoint here. You know, that's where things start to spiral out of control with your Huntmasters and your Olivia Voldarans. You know, a certain argument can be made that if Cliff has the blue source to play the Nightshade Peddler, to play the Static Caster, excuse me, that's where things get really tough. But again, who would you rather play against, that or this?
Yeah, I mean, the odds that opponent has Peddler plus blue source, Static Caster plus blue source seem a lot lower than Huntmaster or Olivia Voldarin.
Yep. And now he's even 1 turn closer to Thragtusk Clan, which is just where you want to stay away from.
I mean, if he has like a removal spell for the Huntmaster plus another haste creature, that's pretty good here, but...
And now you just see him coming across here. And yeah, this is the trade that obviously Cliff is
more than happy,
excited to make. You see a handful of Hell Riders, Thundermaw Hellkite, and a Lightning Mauler that Anthony has pulled to the forefront. You're going to see a Skullcrack in the main phase, and that's so the Huntmaster can't flip.
Right.
Tough situation there, right? Because, you know, if he doesn't play the Skullcrack and tries to wait for a Thragtusk, the Huntmaster flips and takes care of the Legion Loyalist. He's got a 4/4 Ravaging Felt he has to deal with, and he's hoping that his opponent plays a Thragtusk so he can Skullcrack it. But then he's got the 5/3 to worry about too. So, you know, that's just a horrible situation.
Yeah, and that's a place where if Legion Loyalist had been Cackler, he could have at least attacked with that and either gotten 2 points in or gotten the Huntmaster off the table.
Yep. The red deck just isn't a deck that amasses a ton of threats all at once. You know, this isn't a token deck. You know, this isn't a Huntmaster deck that can make a lot of guys. You know, yes, the deck will have some creatures in play, but I don't think it's going to have enough creatures for the Battalion to really be all that relevant. Nor do it's hard to say how relevant the battalion is on that card.
Yeah, we've seen both. Anthony's played both Mizium Mortars and Skullcrack in this game, and like I said, you just have to wonder how did he make room for all this stuff. As you see, Boros Reckoner.
One of, if not the best rare in this set, Boros Reckoner joining the fray here. Cliff in pretty good control of this game. You do see a Nightshade Peddler in his hand. He's going to partner up there with the Ravager of the Fells, come across there with a 4/4 trampling Death Touch. See a Mizium Mortars and Olivia Voldaren over there in Cliff's hand. Mizium Mortars can take care of that Boros Reckoner, but does do a great job of it, as you're going to see a Tracker's Instinct. Reveal Devouring Flesh, Watery Grave, Overgrown Tomb, and is a Staticaster. Unsurprisingly, he's going to take that.
Yep.
And pretty comfortable.
And we're going to see that Hellmaster flip back.
Anthony's going to draw a card. He needs this to be a land very badly, as he does have 2 Hell Riders in his hand, but it's not.
Another Reckoner.
Another Boros Reckoner, so he can send in with the first one. It's certainly a good starting point.
Yeah, now he's also aware that Staticaster lock is coming soon.
Yeah. You just see another Boros Reckoner here. Now, luckily for Anthony, that Nightshade Peddler is paired up with the Huntmaster of the Fells, so the Staticaster combo with Nightshade Peddler is going to be avoided for now. This Cliff does draw a card, draws Abrupt Decay.
Awesome against the Reckoner.
Yeah.
Not a card we've seen a ton of in Standard, but with Boros Reckoner becoming a thing, I think we might see more Abrupt Decays showing up in these black-green decks.
Yeah, I think this is something that you're going to see a lot of moving forward. Just not only just to take care of Boros Reckoner, but they're just Abrupt Decay is just a very versatile card and what it can take care of. If it wants to take care of something like Frontline Medic, all the kind of oddly enough, all the cards that are like the really good things against Boros, all these cards that Boros would be playing, it's pretty good against.
Yeah.
Frontline Medic, Sky Knight Legionnaire, your Silverblade Paladins of the world, just a lot of targets for Abrupt Decay now. As you did see, Ravager of the Fells flip, took care of the first Boros Reckoner. Abrupt Decay took care of the second one. And Cliff is just, kind of easing into the control of this game. You're going to see a Pillar of Flame take care of the Nightshade Peddler.
Engaging the following player, David Reed.
Still stuck with all those Hell Riders.
David Reed Caps.
You're going to see an Izzet Staticaster here.
And that's going to be the second spell for Cliff this turn. We're just going to turn his Huntmaster back over.
Hell of a card.
Yeah.
Well, that Ravager should have flipped back in the Huntmaster because there was the Abrupt Decay and a Izzet Staticaster. Radio down to our Table Spotter. In just a moment. As you see, they have paused the game here, it looks like.
I think we might have moved past.
Yeah. I mean, it is a triggered ability.
Right.
So if you do miss it, you miss it.
Yeah.
So.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
In this case, it doesn't look to be true. No.
I think you lose it. We're going to see a flashback on the Tracker's Instinct.
Yep. Mizium Mortars, Izzet Staticaster, Huntmaster of the Fells, and Olivia Voldaren. Cliff is going to select the Huntmaster of the Fells. You see a Arbor Elf, going to untap some things here. You're going to see a second Arbor Elf, again the second turn, and you see Huntmaster going to come back.
Oh, so he might have passed on it just to hit for 4, and because he was planning on flipping this turn.
Well, it's not something that you don't have the option of passing on it. You don't get the choice of not flipping it.
And there's the concession.
It's not an optional ability. Either way, Cliff very far ahead in that game. Either way, far ahead in both games. Honestly.
But how does that not fall into mismandatory trigger rule?
Explain your question.
Like, you can kind of pass on. Like, can't you forget to trigger basically?
You can quote unquote forget, and then, a judge would be called, and then Anthony would be asked, "Do you want his card to flip over?"
Okay, right. But in that position, it's very likely Anthony's thinking he probably just forgot the trigger, because why wouldn't he have flipped his guy over?
Sure.
You know what I mean? So
yeah. The card is supposed to flip.
Right.
Yeah. But both missed the trigger. So
okay.
I don't think it was an instance of Cliff going, I'm just going to forget on purpose and attack you for 4, because it's just not something that you can do.
I'm not a huge fan of the mandatory trigger rule, for those of you watching at home.
Sounds like an article that you could pen.
No, the rule stuff that's outside of my jurisprudence. Yeah.
Either way, pedal to the metal, giving Mono Red quite the beat down there.
Yeah, that was. I mean, you know, we land heavy hands in game 1, and then tight on lands game 2, and that's the problem with some of these beatdown decks. They're just trying to go up to 4 and 5. You had to play so many lands for not that many 4s and 5s.
Yeah.
And so you're just gonna get your deck's failure rate is just going to be pretty high, because you're just going to either stall on 3 lands with a bunch of Hell Riders and Thunder Maws in your hand, or draw a bunch of your lands that are in your deck to cast Thunder Maw and Hell Rider, and have a bunch of Lightning Maulers and Stormkirk Nobles and not be able to win. So, enough time to move over to another match. Do we have a beatdown in progress?
I don't think we're walking into...
Looks like there's a game going on.
I don't think we're walking into that big of a beatdown. You can see a Huntmaster on the left, a couple Avacyn's Pilgrims on the right. We'll have our players' names updated along with the decks that they are playing. Looks like a little bit of Jund on the left. You see a Farseek in the graveyard of the player on the left, and you see a Temple Guard and some other things there on the right for Gregory Mitchell. So maybe a little Jund on Naya?
Maybe
a little of that?
Maybe it could be a peddler deck.
Yeah, it could pedal to the metal. That's something that could happen.
It looks like it does look like Gregory's deck is basically just a Naya deck.
Yeah.
From the looks of things.
Thus far.
Yeah.
It could jump into Reanimator though. We never know. We don't even have the deck list yet, so who knows?
It could be swings.